Hello, and welcome to this demo on UI synchronization. In this demo, we'll learn how to use UI synchronization activities to handle different situations, which the robot may encounter while logging into an application. Here, our use case is the login process for the Acme website. When we type in our email and password, one of the three things can happen. If we leave at least one of the fields blank, we get a call-out indicating the blank field. If we enter the wrong credentials, we get a message notifying us of this error. If we provide the correct credentials, we log in successfully. Okay, let's begin. For this demo, we'll use the credentials from Windows Credential Manager. So, before we start building our project, we need to create an entry for the credentials. Let's select Windows Credentials and click Add a generic credential. Let's provide a name for the credentials. We'll use this name later in our project to retrieve the values. Next, we'll type in the username and the password. Let's click OK, and we're done here. Great! We're ready to start building our project. Let's create a new process and provide a name. OK, our new process is created. To retrieve information from the Credentials Manager, we need to install the UiPath Credentials Activities package. Let's do this now. We'll navigate to Manage Packages, search for the Credentials package, and click Install. Note that the version should be 2.0.0. All the required project dependencies are installed. Let's navigate to main.xaml and create a new sequence. We'll rename the sequence and add an annotation to describe our workflow. We want to open the Edge browser and navigate to the Acme login page. To do this, we'll use an Open Browser activity and provide the URL. Once the browser is open, we want to make sure the page has loaded before typing in the credentials. Let's add an onElementAppear activity. This is a container that waits for a UI element to appear and enables us to perform multiple actions within it. Let's check its properties. Repeat Forever enables us to continuously repeat this activity. This property only supports Boolean values. In our case, we only want to do it once, so we'll change the property to false. Let's indicate the login label for this activity. Now for the next steps. Let's get the credentials from the Windows Credential Manager. To do this, we'll use a Get Secure Credential activity. It is a good practice to add this activity within the same scope of where it is being used. We'll provide the name of the credential as a string inside the target property, Acme Credentials. Of course, we'll create output variables for the password and the username properties using the Ctrl+K shortcut. That's it for this activity. Awesome! We'll add a Type Into activity for the email field. We'll indicate the correct field and provide the username variable as input text. Since the password is stored in an object of secure string type, we'll add a Type Secure Text activity for the password field. We'll indicate the field and provide the password variable in the Secure Text property. We'll add a Click activity for the login button. Let's enable the input method Simulate Type and Simulate Click from the Properties panel for the Type Into and Click activities. As we've mentioned earlier, there are three possible cases we can run into. The login is successful, or one of the credentials is incorrect, or one of the credentials is missing. To log each of the three cases, we'll use a combination of the pick and pick branch activities. The pick activity lets us define a set of event triggers and configure means to handle the events. Each pick branch activity will pair a trigger with a handling mechanism. Let's add our first pick branch activity inside the pick container. We'll use it for the successful login case. If we log in correctly into Acme, we are directed to the dashboard page. To configure the trigger for this branch, we'll add an element exists activity in the trigger block and indicate an element within the dashboard. In our case, we'll indicate welcome. Inside the action block, we'll log the fact that the login was successful using an info level log message. Okay, we're done with this branch. We'll use the next branch for our second case where the credentials are present, but they do not match. Let's add an element exists activity again. As we can see, if we enter an incorrect password, we get a message below the email field. We'll indicate this warning message in Acme for the element exists activity. We'll log this information at an error level. The last case is the one where one of the credentials is not typed in. This time, we'll use an image exists activity for the trigger and click Indicate on screen. Press F2 to pause the selection for a few seconds. Click Login to generate the callout. As we can see, upon clicking the Login button, we get a callout notifying us that both fields are required. We'll make our selection when the selection mode is resumed. We'll log this case at warn level. Okay, we're done adding the activities. There's one last thing left to do. Let's reduce the timeout for each element exists activity to 5 seconds, or 5,000 milliseconds. Now let's save our progress. Close Acme and run the process. It's important to log out and close the Acme web page before running the workflow. The login is successful. Okay, back to Studio. Let's check the output panel. The log reflects this as well. Now, let's simulate the case where either the username or password is missing. This is the case for the pick branch number 3. To simulate this scenario, we'll simply disable the type into activity for the username by commenting it out. We'll select the activity and press Ctrl+D. Let's save and click Run File. We can see the callout on the screen and the corresponding warning is logged in the output panel. This goes for the password as well. If we follow the same steps by commenting out the password activity, the same log message will appear. Next, let's simulate the case where either the username or the password is incorrect. Let's start with an incorrect username. To simulate this, we'll simply add a random string to the text property of the type into activity. The message we are expecting is incorrect username or password. Let's run the workflow. The warning message is displayed in Acme, and we see the correct event is logged in the output panel. Next, we want to simulate the case where the password is incorrect. To do this, we'll add a getPassword activity. We'll type a random string in the password property and create a new variable called wrongPassword for the result property. As we can see, the type of the result property is string. We need to convert it to secure string so that it works with type secure text. To do this, we'll replace the password variable in the secure text property with a new object of network credential type, which takes the password as a string of an argument and is converted to secure password. We'll write new system.net.network credential of nothing because the username is nothing and wrong password is converted to secure password. We'll click OK. Let's save the workflow. Before we run it, let's remove the random string from the type into activity for email. We expect the same behavior. The message is displayed once again in Acme. When we return to the studio, we find that the expected result is in the output panel. And that's it. For a few key takeaways, UI synchronization activities help handle complex situations encountered in UI automation scenarios. OnElementAppear is a container that waits for a UI element to appear and enables us to perform multiple actions within it. ElementExists enables us to verify if a UI element exists. Even if it is not visible, its output is a Boolean variable. Pick and pick branch let us define event triggers, and configure means to handle them. Now go ahead and try to simulate these cases for other applications that require you to log in. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy automation!